A billionaire tycoon once fired a top-level executive, not because of a scandal, not because of bad numbers, but because of 2 words the man said during a morning briefing. "I'll try." To everyone else in the room, it sounded reasonable, humble even. But the tycoon wasn't listening to the words. He was listening to the signal underneath the words, and what he heard was unmistakable. This man does not fully believe he belongs here. He didn't fire him that day. He watched for 3 more weeks, and what he saw confirmed everything. Not in the boardroom, in the hallway, in the small moments, in the way the man handled a minor mistake, a casual challenge, an unexpected compliment. The same signal, over and over. The way you speak, the tycoon understood, is not just communication. It is a live map of your inner world. And most people are broadcasting their own lack of value every single time they open their mouths, without ever realizing it. Today, that changes. There is a man I want you to picture. We'll call him David. David was talented. He was the first one in the office every morning. He was, by every visible measure, exactly the kind of person who should have been moving up. Yet for 3 years, he watched younger, less experienced colleagues receive the promotions, the raises, the invitations into rooms he hadn't been allowed to enter yet. He couldn't explain it. His manager couldn't explain it. But the CEO, a man who had built 2 companies from nothing, kept a quiet, steady distance from David that no one could point to or name. It was David's wife who finally saw it. They were at a company dinner. Someone asked David if he could lead a new division. And before she even heard his answer, she watched something happen to him. His shoulders shifted inward, almost imperceptibly. His eyes broke contact for just a moment, and then he said, "I can certainly give it a shot." She didn't say anything that night, but on the drive home, she asked him one question. "Why do you always make yourself smaller when it matters most?" David had no answer, because he had never seen it. It had always just felt like humility. But humility and smallness are not the same thing, and that single blind spot had been costing him everything. Here is what was actually happening to David, and what may be happening to you right now. Most people are what you could call reactionary speakers. They speak to fill silence. They speak to appease the room. They speak to protect their image from the risk of failure. And because they are always reacting to pressure, to expectation, to the possibility of judgment, their language leaks, constantly. The 1% operate differently. They are intentional speakers. They understand that every interaction, every single exchange, no matter how small, is a quiet negotiation of respect. And they have learned to treat their language accordingly. The tycoon had a name for what David was doing. He called it broadcasting weakness, not loudly, not obviously, but steadily, reliably, in every small moment where the stakes felt just high enough to trigger the instinct to shrink. And the first place most people broadcast it, without ever knowing, is the moment they receive credit. When someone thanks you for your work, the reflexive response is almost always some version of, "Oh, it was nothing," or "anyone would have done it," or "no problem at all." These phrases feel modest, they feel safe. But what they actually signal is, "I don't fully believe I deserve this." And in the logic of the elite, words are the currency of status. When you say it was nothing, you are literally telling the room that your time, your thinking, and your effort carry no value. The correction is not arrogance, it's alignment. You receive the acknowledgement cleanly. You say, "I'm glad it came together well," or simply, "That project meant a lot to me." You are not puffing yourself up. You are simply staying the same height. And a person who can receive appreciation without flinching is someone others trust to handle more. Now let's talk about the words that signal anxiety, because anxiety has a vocabulary, and it is remarkably consistent. I'll try. I hope so. I'm not sure, but we'll see. These are not humble phrases. They are escape hatches. They are the linguistic version of negotiating with failure before you've even started. When David said, "I can certainly give it a shot" at that dinner, what the CEO heard was, "This man is already protecting himself from the outcome. He's hedging. He's leaving himself a way out." Contrast that with someone who looks the same person in the eye and simply says, "Yes, when do we start?" Same situation, completely different signal. The shift here is not about performing a confidence you don't yet feel. It's about understanding that commitment is not a reward for certainty. It's the thing that produces it. You don't wait to feel ready to speak like someone who intends to deliver. You speak the intention first, and then you make it true. "I'll handle it" is not a lie, it's a declaration. And declarations of intent are precisely what separate the people who receive opportunities from the people who receive tasks. But here is where most people make the critical mistake. They start correcting their language in the big moments, the interviews, the negotiations, the presentations, and they completely ignore the small ones. The tycoon who watched David wasn't observing him in the boardroom. He was watching the hallway. He was watching how David responded when he was 5 minutes late to a call, how he handled a minor error in a report, how he reacted when someone pushed back on his idea in passing. In the big moments, everyone performs. It's the small moments that reveal character. So watch this one carefully. When you are late, even slightly, what do? Most people lead with apology. Sorry I'm late, I got held up. The traffic was terrible. They place themselves immediately into a position of social debt, and they force the other person to spend energy comforting them. The intentional speaker does something different. They walk in, make brief eye contact, and say, "Thank you for your patience." Notice the mechanics of that shift. You are no longer asking for forgiveness. You are conferring appreciation. You are acknowledging the other person's virtue while keeping your own dignity intact. That is the difference between someone who leads and someone who follows, and it plays out in a 3-second exchange before a meeting even begins. The same logic extends to how you handle your own potential. When faced with a task you don't yet know how to do, most people say, "I don't know how to do that." It feels honest, but it is a dead end. It is a confession of a limit, stated as a permanent fact. The intentional speaker says, "I can learn that quickly." These two statements describe the exact same reality. The difference is that the first one broadcasts a ceiling, and the second one broadcasts a floor. You are telling the world that your capacity to grow is your most valuable asset, and you are doing it in 5 words. And when you genuinely don't have an answer in the moment, you don't say, "No idea." You say, "That's an interesting question. What's your read on it?" You keep the energy moving. You signal curiosity, not blankness. Because wisdom doesn't come from always knowing. It comes from being the person willing to find out. There is one more signal worth examining, and it is the most subtle, which is why it is also the most revealing. It is how you handle disagreement. When someone challenges your idea, your plan, your judgment, the ego has one immediate agenda: survive, defend, win. And this reflex, this need to protect the position in real time, is one of the most reliable markers of someone who has not yet arrived. Because it reveals that their confidence is fragile, that it requires constant external defense to stay standing. Real confidence, the kind built from actual results, does not need defending in the moment. When someone challenges you and you pause, consider it genuinely and say, "That's a fair point. Let me sit with that." You have just demonstrated something most people spend their whole careers trying to fake. You have shown that you are more committed to being right than to being seen as right. And the people in the room who matter will feel that distinction immediately. This is not weakness. It is the most secure thing a person can do. It means your identity is not staked on the outcome of a single conversation. And that kind of security is magnetic. 3 months after that company dinner, something shifted for David. His wife's question had stayed with him, and he began to pay attention, really pay attention, to the constant quiet way he had been broadcasting smallness. He noticed he apologized reflexively, even when nothing had gone wrong. He noticed he prefaced almost every idea with, "I might be off here, but..." He noticed that he deflected every compliment like it might embarrass him. For years he had thought he was being humble. The Tycoon gave that behavior its real name: reality denial. When someone sees value in you and you reject it, you are not being modest. You are telling them their judgment is wrong. He began making corrections, not performing, not faking, just stopping the leaks. One by one, he stopped the reflexive apologies. He stopped hedging before his own ideas. He stopped shrinking before the room had even asked him to. When he made a mistake, a real one, he stopped constructing an architecture of excuses. He simply said, "That was mine. Here's how I'm fixing it." And there is an almost mysterious power in that level of ownership. When you refuse to defend the mistake, you instantly separate yourself from it. You are no longer the person who failed. You are the person already solving it. Within 6 months, the CEO had invited David into 3 separate strategy conversations. Not because David had suddenly become smarter. He had been smart the entire time, but now the signal matched the substance. Here is the single truth underneath everything we have covered today. Your language is not a reflection of who you are. It is a reflection of how much you believe in who you are. When you receive acknowledgement cleanly, you signal belief in your own work. When you commit without hedging, you signal belief in your own ability. When you own mistakes without theater, you signal belief in your own stability. When you consider challenges without defense, you signal belief in your own security. These are not communication tricks. They are not scripts to memorize or tactics to deploy. They are the natural output of a person who has stopped auditioning for their own life. The Tycoon wasn't searching for perfect language. He was searching for people whose words had finally caught up with their substance. People who had made a quiet, internal decision that their presence was worth standing behind, and whose every word, in every small moment, confirmed it. Your life will rise or fall to the level of your language. Speak like an afterthought, and you will be treated like one. But remove the hedges, stop the reflexive apologies, drop the escape hatches, and the world has no choice but to adjust to your new frequency. Slow down, choose carefully, Remove what is unnecessary. Because over time, the way you speak doesn't just change how people see you, it changes how you see yourself. If you've been following Tycoon logic, you already know this. Most people spend years building skills, knowledge, and results, and then quietly give it all away the moment they open their mouths. You now understand exactly why and exactly how to stop it. Your presence is the only thing you truly own. Protect it with every word. If this is the first time you've encountered Tycoon logic, consider what your language has been broadcasting up until today, and understand that the signal can change the moment you decide it will. That decision starts right now.